Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're giving our first impression of God's love, dinosaurs.
T-Rex.
And this was, I think, one of the games that was maybe available when we did our dinosaur series we did last year.
Dinomania. Check out the playlist.
We did it like a year and a half ago, and we were trying to get all the dinosaur games and rank them. This was one that we did not get to play. But then we ended up getting it that Christmas. It's one that I would say I was probably excited for. I always like dinosaurs and games. I didn't really know all that much about the game, but I know there's a lot of Pandasaurus games that I like.
Pandasaurus, and they do good dinosaur games, and
exactly.
I was pretty excited about it as well.
Yeah, so it had been on a list.
It was the only one that wasn't on our list that made me feel like, does this list even count then? When we did Dinomania, I'm like, it really should include that, because I'd seen a lot of posts on Instagram, a lot of hype for it, and just beautiful components, and I'm like, this really should be in the collection, and now it is. Tell us if you want us to re-rank our dinosaur games. We actually have another one, holotype.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So we have that one, and we might even have another one or two possibly elsewhere. I feel like there might have been one more somewhere, but
I can't remember. But yeah, so this one is a game that you are doing some kind of tile drafting and placement to kind of build out your own tableau of kind of some
different terrain
types that you're adding animals to, and you're kind of doing 3 levels of...
You're managing the food chain and keeping your dinosaurs at the top fed.
Yes, that is kind of the whole game. Is you are just trying to feed the kind of, so you got your kind of small animals. You got like 3 types, and there's 3 different terrain types in the game, and then there's kind of mountain spaces as well. But those ones, the 3 kind of, what you got, frogs, rats, and mice, kind of living in the different areas, and then kind of there's this thing that can be triggered as you're taking these tiles to kind of have them reproduce in a way, and then fill in kind of if you have 2 out on the board, if they have an adjacent space of the same terrain type, you can fill that in, so you can kind of populate them.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take 2 on the board. Just
each individual is looked
reproduces. Don't know how that works,
but that's how it works in this game. And then you got kind of a secondary tier of
the predators.
Yes, the predators.
Not from the movies. These aren't these alien creatures.
Unfortunately. Otherwise, the dinosaur might have a tough fight against them. But these ones, you've got kind of like a hawk bird type thing, and then kind of a tiger type animal. And the tiger just kind of goes... so these are both trying to eat the smaller animals when they activate.
Yep. So, when you take that
kind
column,
of their reproduce.
Yeah, their reproduce is the hawk would then each of your hawks, unless you choose not to do it. If they don't eat, then they are removed from your board.
Mm-hmm. And they can eat any of the smaller ones.
Yep, they can eat any of the smaller ones, and like the hawks, you move up to 3 spaces in a straight line, and then they have to end their movement on the spot with a prey to feed. And I think the tiger just moves 2 spaces, and he can twist and turn either way. But any additional ones, in addition to that final space that they end on and eat the prey, if they ate any more prey in the path that they took there, that prey then is replaced with another of that predator type. So you want to reproduce the prey to fill up these spots, to then have the predators come in and eat a bunch of them on their activation, to then have more predators, which guess what happens to them when the T-Rex activates?
I think you might know.
Eats the predators, and for each one that he eats, then they lay an egg, a T-Rex egg, and those are pretty much points at the end of the game.
You get points for eggs, and then those eggs you can use to potentially add more T-Rex out onto the board. But the T-Rexes can only stand on kind of the mountain spaces, so there's not that many in the game. So they have 5 movement and have to end on a mountain space. So kind of the most they could eat in a turn potentially is 4.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to get back onto
Yeah.
a mountain space, which no other animals go onto.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're kind of just managing kind of an ecosystem. And yeah, I would say, like I said, I just saw dinosaurs in the title and saw
Yeah.
Pandasaurus. I didn't really know all of how the game was played. Still excited. But then when we were starting reading that off, I'm like, doesn't seem as interesting as their, dinosaur park type games where you got Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World.
I mean, it's just much more peaceful. You're not trying to tame the dinosaurs and put them in a cage. They're just doing their natural thing. It's like, where's the fun in that?
Right. But then, yeah, once we actually played it, we played it twice now. I enjoyed it a lot. Quite a bit. It's just something fun about managing, keeping that ecosystem going. It is a fun kind of puzzle because if you have one of your kind of mid-level eat kind of all of one type, then those will not reproduce anymore. So then you're kind of getting rid of that. So then you're hoping, I got to get the T-Rex to move so they don't all starve and die. And the T-Rex I do like that the T-Rex can eat a small animal. It doesn't get you an egg, but it at least sustains
just
him.
Eat a little rabbit, and he'll be fed for
that turn.
Activation.
It's obviously not the ideal thing you want to do, but that way you can.
Yeah, that doesn't get you those eggs, but it will keep them alive because the T-Rex itself is the point at the end of the game. So.
As well.
But yeah, I do like that you do want to keep keep the prey going and keep them reproducing, so you might withhold, like on possibly getting maybe 2 extra hawks put out, maybe just stop yourself at 1, just so you will have those mice to reproduce on their next turn. But even if you do wipe them out, it does feel bad if they then do activate, or if your area is full of them and they have nowhere to spread to, which that can happen too. That feels worse, I think, when it's like, oh, I could have gotten like 4 more, but it's full. So yeah, it is. I guess I'll finish talking about this, then I'll move on to that. But it's a very cool thing because you can take the tiles that will then immediately place one of those prey on there. So it's not like you do have to you are starting from scratch, but if you could just get 2 of those tiles and they reproduce, you're going to have 4 of those type. So it's not completely stalled out. It's pretty easy to get back into it and getting that growing again. And I do really just find that interesting. The order you take the tiles matters a lot, especially in 2-player, because that's kind of how it's tied to the reproducing and the hunting. There's like 5 columns of tiles, and in a 2-player game,
each of the different types, and then the T-Rex itself will be below one of them.
Yeah, so in a 2-player game, there's 2 tiles in each column. So if I take the first tile from the frog column, he could take the second one from the frog column, and the frogs will reproduce. And if the T-Rex was also in that frog column, after the frogs reproduce, the T-Rex will move around and activate. So
and it'll have to be fed.
Yeah, it will have to be fed. So that is just, it's just a huge thing that you have to think about. You take tiles that you maybe don't fit the best just because you need something to happen and reproduce or hunt first before you do something like, oh, my hawks will have nothing to eat unless the rabbits are reproduced, and I don't really like that tile, but I guess I'll take it just to make sure the rabbits reproduce, because he could just take that
trigger the hawk and then trigger the trouble.
Yeah, so it just adds a lot to think about, like equal to, probably greater than the actual tile itself and what's printed on it. But yeah, I found this very satisfying. I think it's up there with these types of games, kind of keeping I guess I don't know what kind of game would you call it?
It's almost an engine builder.
Engine builder?
Sort of.
A little bit.
Sort of, but not necessarily. I don't know what that's called. Because, it's not like...
It's an engine that can just completely disappear.
Yeah, it's not really an engine, because... I don't know what I'd call it, but... Yeah, just a sustainability game.
Sustaining that, I think it's probably one of my favorites of that type. I guess it kind of gives me feels of New York Zoo, where you're kind of getting the different animals and they're kind of breeding and spreading out a little bit. It's a bit different, but I think I do... I guess, I don't know, have we done any videos on New York Zoo?
I don't know if we have
I don't think so.
released that
So
yet.
I guess if we do, you can go and look at those. I don't know if I was in those videos, but I think I probably prefer that aspect in this one, which it just wasn't too punishing, but it was something that you always had to think about.
Yeah.
And I think it's just fun for those satisfying turns when you do reproduce and get like 4 extra frogs, or when your hawks are just perfectly soaring and reproducing. So I really enjoyed it. I think I'll give it probably an 8.5, I'll say. I was thinking maybe 8.75, but I'm like, I don't know how different it'll feel from game to game. That's kind of the only thing that I am worried about, because
that's the exact numbers I am between 8.5, 8.75, and it was the same exact thing I was thinking. I don't know from game to game how it will feel. I'm also not sure with more players how it will feel.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like us who had a certain way of playing the game that the T-Rex.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, the T-Rex would not trigger for a long time. It seemed like for a while, and I don't know if that's just how all the games are going to be played, or if that's just how we play it, and that's kind of our own meta that we've created.
Yeah, I think just to start off, we didn't have good things for the Rex, so we just were like, I want to trigger these things, I want to trigger these things. It's not so much, don't trigger the Rex, save that for last. It's just, everything else was more enticing.
Right.
And a little later on we did, because that's how the board refreshes, is when the T-Rex is triggered, that column, then you fill in the empty columns, but yeah, the first one we went, we had to refill the whole board then, we took every single tile, but yeah, I feel like it was that way in the first game too, so maybe that is just our style, and I don't feel like I played that different of a game to the first one.
Yeah.
It kind of goes the same way. You want to get some mountains out there, reproduce the things, and then just kind of shuffle your dinosaurs along between the mountain spaces, which is fun. It's kind of a nice balancing act, and at a certain point you're like, I don't actually need more dinosaurs out there. I feel like I should hatch another one, but I don't actually need it, because 4 is enough.
I'm kind of surprised the dinosaurs aren't worth like 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're harder to manage.
Risk losing them.
Right. And the egg is not risked if you just leave it, and it's the same amount of points.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be
a house rule. And I don't know that having... I feel like 3 might be the right amount. 4, I don't know that you probably could, but it seems like something you wouldn't be able to like make it use of necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe you could. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it kind of depends how you build out your map.
Yeah.
If you do have things kind of far away.
Yeah.
So I think 4 is probably the max. I would not want to go to 5. I don't see that your map's going to be that crazy that you would need it. But yeah, I do think that it would be nice to have them worth 2. That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to check out more of the components, we have an unboxing of this one, so you can go check that out. You can check out our other dinosaur-related content if you want to. But yeah, I would say this one definitely feels different than the other dinosaur games.
It does. You're not running a park. Although it could be running a park.
Maybe that's what's happening.
That's at the end. That's at the end.
That's the reveal.
That is the reveal. It zooms out. There's a fence, an electrified fence. We were in the Jurassic Park the whole time.
And we didn't even know it. But yeah, otherwise, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.